You said you wanted to know how to get Capone. Do you really want to get him? You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do? If you open the ball on these people, Mr. Nash, you must be prepared to go all the way. Because they won't give up the fight until one of you is dead.
I want to get Capone. I don't know how to get him.
Want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how you get Capone. Now, do you want to do that? Are you ready to do that? I'm making you a deal. Do you want this deal?
I have sworn to put this man away with any and all legal means at my disposal, and I will do so.
Well, the Lord hates a coward. Do you know what a blood oath is, Mr. Ness?
Yes.
Good, because you just took one.
You know what it is. There's controversy around this yo-yo, so let's dig in. What we have here are 3 of the world's best yo-yo players, and each one of them has a new yo-yo that's been released recently. Starting with Gentry, he has the Shutter Evo, which honestly looks like the best shutter in the world. With Evan, we have the Edge 2022 and the new Edge FS, which is a monometal. FS standing for finger spin, of course. But there's also the no scope for 4A. But we're not here for that. We're looking at this Outlier 3. The newest signature of Brandon Vu. And first impressions? Well, this thing looks impressive. I snagged a couple of pics from social media while I was waiting on mine to get here. And what we're seeing on this first run is a 3-and-3 split between glossy and the faded matte finishes. Not a bad setup, I must say. I opted for the Angel 2-Up Godlier edition. This is a collaboration yo-yo with this guy. Angelo Hager. I don't know how to pronounce that. He's known for the DNA. Got tutorial videos and all that good stuff on there. But, as nice as that is, what he's really known for is the Godspeed. Here he is with the Outlier 2. This is his first experience with Offset, and it looks like he likes the Outlier. Do we like the Outlier, Angelo? Yeah, chalk that up as a W. Now, what I appreciate about the Outlier is Brandon's singular vision. This started out as a direct competitor to the Dropnir. Version 1 was very much in the same spirit, better in some ways. The Outlier 2 is sheer perfection. I said as much in my review, and it still holds up as one of the best performance yo-yos ever made. And it's been a long road to get here, and we don't come to this yo-yo haphazardly. This first Outlier is very good in its own right. There was 5 or 6 prototypes, some with inner rings, some with rim-weighted rings. A lot of choices, but this was actually dialed in until Brandon felt good on his choices. And it's still on a very good yo-yo. I still pull mine out once on the blue. And on the other hand, the Outlier 2 is an improvement that you can feel. Now the Outlier, the original, was already fire out of the gate. But the 2 is noticeably better, with better aerodynamics, better speed, better float, better spin, and a little bit more power. For me, it was just better all around, and one of my top releases in 2021. I absolutely loved this thing. And we'll talk about what that meant for me later. But Brandon could have stopped right there. Offset yo-yos already had a solid reputation in the community with just these yo-yos, but there was a couple of classics, Monometal Deviant, and a nice standard that Brandon was setting. However, Brandon Vu, I think he's guilty of practicing voodoo. So here we are with the Outlier 3. On first take, this thing looks a bit more aggressive than its predecessors. But you can definitely see that it is in that same family. It still has that same design language. Very nice. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, there's some other yo-yos that came out that are a little comparable, like the Damascus by Yo-Yo Friends. We also have the Aventus by Thesis yo-yos. Haven't had the pleasure, but Thesis does throw down the hammer. Then we also have the Edge 2022 in those Angel 2 up fades. Stop the cap. You guys are copying. We also have the YoyoFactory Miracle. Quite a few choices, including the Yo-Yo Recreation Bay, BAE. And then we have two from Yo-Yo Friends, the Tachyon with the stainless steel rims, and the Graviton with the titanium rims. But back to our main attraction. As far as the specs are concerned, the weight is almost exactly the same, but it's spread out over a bigger yo-yo. That makes it feel a little lighter. Now, truly I was skeptical. I call shenanigans. But Brandon Vu says stop being a baby and just throw it. So, let's check out this unboxing. Brandon and Offset continue to get one of the best unboxing experiences in the game. Very luxurious. In the hand, this thing feels robust. The build quality comes through on this as well. You can actually feel the premiumness of it. And those rims, man, that is a story because they reach all the way around. So you got a lot of weight at the edge of this yo-yo. And Brandon keeps on messaging us inside the box too. And here we have the progression of the three yo-yos. And this one, we have that very discreet engraving, which I always like. And under certain lights, we either look in tangerine or outside, it looks hot pink. So, I do like this fade. We see as the new models come in, they get a hairbreadth wider. Nice progression, and it doesn't interfere with play. We'll talk about that in just a second. But all three are beastly in their own right, have to admit. Okay, so we're finally at it. What are we dealing with here with this yo-yo? Let's make a couple of comparisons. Now, the OG is still a dope yo-yo. Agile, powerful, a bit more subtle than its progeny. The Outlier 2 is a performance beast, one of the most aerodynamic yo-yos I've ever played. A great mover with a little bit more power and spin. I was enamored with this thing. Now there was the complaint about the sharpness of its edges, which I never really experienced, and the 3 addresses those concerns. But I got a couple of more yo-yos we need to look at. Namely this Thesis yo-yo Paladin. I was able to pick this up earlier this year, and its body shape is similar to the Outlier 2. There's a big difference in the way it plays, however, because its bimetal is in the cup and not quite on the edge like the 2. So the play dynamic is a little different. Not better, not worse, but the Outlier is, you can feel that it's built for competition. It's speedy and agile. The Outlier 3, well, we'll get into that in just a second. I also picked up the IQ earlier this year, and it does compete with the Outlier in terms of power. Its rims are massive, but it doesn't quite move as fast as the Outlier does. That thing is just aerodynamic in the extreme. The IQ can also be viewed as an extreme yo-yo, but its extreme nature can be viewed as a little off-putting if you're not careful. Putting all that silliness aside, what we are dealing with here with the 3, it feels open and robust. A bit more powerful with plenty of spin at the end of a combo. I never ever lost spin. This yo-yo is precise, direct, and calculated. And even though there's a greater emphasis on comfort, that does not diminish its performance at all. It's a little easier to catch, it's speedy, it's a little wider, and I'm sure that the tech tricks are very doable. And being from Brandon Vu, you know this thing is good for the horizontal situation. I actually couldn't believe that the Outlier 3 is even more powerful than the Outlier 2 while still feeling a little lighter. That's tripped out and my mind is blown. In addition, the weight distribution has been tweaked and improved. We've added a hub or nub so that optimizes weight overall. And finally, say what you will about the price, I'm very cool with it. Because really, what you're getting is an S-tier competition spec performance beast that is ahead of a drop near at about half the price. And as far as I'm concerned, Brandon, this is how you one up your main. Escalation indeed. As glowing as the review is, I got one criticism, and that's these strings were buns, my dude. Now, Brandon said he wanted to start making his own strings. I'm rocking these Mazel Top strings, but one word for you, Brandon: zipline. And we'll close this out by saying that the Outlier 3 establishes a different relationship with players, giving them increased ability and motivation. But one question remains. What does this yo-yo feel like? Well, I'm reminded that it's like the Banshee SS. Pull that out and they play very similarly. Very, very similarly. But I would say the Banshee SS is like the little brother to the Outlier 3. They play very similar and you can see them in the same family. But the Outlier 3 is just a little bigger. A little bit more comfortable. Okay. So I bought this yo-yo just purely off the strength of the Offset brand and Brandon Vu. Even though I could not appreciate fully why we were transitioning from the Outlier 2 to the Outlier 3. Fantastic yo-yo for sure, but I didn't quite understand why it came into existence. I voiced some of my concerns to Brandon, and he was very gracious. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He was very gracious. He said, look, we learned a lot from the Outlier 2. I think you'll like it. That's pretty much all he said. And it still didn't hit me. But I did a little research and noticed this clip that I found on his channel, on Offset's channel. Not Brandon's, but Offset. Check this out.
The world evolves, technology improves, new yo-yos come out, different styles come out, tricks that are scoring in one regard change, things evolve. So again, you want to keep your ear to the ground on emerging yo-yo technology, because if you don't, you're going to end up using a yo-yo that's a little bit dated and you're not going to be at the forefront. You're not going to have all of the bells and whistles that all the kids are competing with these days. So keep in mind for emerging tech. So there we have it.
I get it now. Lesson learned. Now, 2021, my favorite yo-yo of the year was the Civility. But this year, in 2022, I have to give it to the Outlier 3. The reason is because it builds on its own outstanding pedigree. There are other yo-yos out that are very good, but they don't have the history, the pedigree, the escalation that Brandon put together. Now, who is this yo-yo for? Well, Gary, would you mind? Everyone! Thanks. Appreciate that. And that, my friends, is how Brandon Vu is showing us how it's done. That's the review, but check out what we get into for next time. Some of these individuals you've seen, some you haven't. I like to think that Yo-Yo brings together some diverse personalities, and these individuals will come into focus as we bring these Yo-Yo reviews into development. But that's in the future. Stick around if you don't want to miss anything. Okay, this has been the Outlier 3 Yo-Yo review by Offset and Brandon Vu. I'm simply Mike, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.